What is enlightenment? An introduction to the initiation process according to the teachings of Alice Bailey, commentary by Dr. Lisa Love. What is enlightenment? Many people have tried to define it, but perhaps one of the problems that confronts them as they try to do so is the fact that most operate on an assumption that enlightenment is one big, dramatic experience that happens suddenly and magically transforms a person into a spiritual being once and for all. But if you dive deeper into the various spiritual traditions, that Hollywood version of how spiritual enlightenment happens is almost never how it goes. Rather, enlightenment is a process where we go from one enlightenment experience to the next, allowing us to have an increased capacity to be purified and lit up in the fires of the real, allowing us to more clearly see the unreal as we stand in the light of spiritual realities and truths. In the Alice Bailey model that this video draws upon, there are actually said to be 9 enlightenment experiences known as initiations. The word initiation is used instead of enlightenment because it implies taking the spiritual initiative to master our energies, mental, emotional, etheric, physical, in such a way we evolve from the 4th human kingdom into what Bailey calls the 5th kingdom of conscious souls. Note, the first 3 kingdoms are mineral, vegetable, animal. The human kingdom is the 4th, and this new emerging kingdom is the 5th. Becoming soul or entering the kingdom of conscious souls is not an easy process. Because though we look human on the outside, on the inside, we live according to a very different set of values. These values are not followed because a particular religion tells us to follow certain religious protocol in order to be good. Rather, these values are lived because our inner realizations or experiences dramatically transform or expand our consciousness in such a way so values become natural for us to follow. As for the 9 initiations, or we could call them enlightenment experiences or expansions of consciousness, many of these are found in the esoteric or hidden teachings of various spiritual faiths. I personally have found parallels to these in Hinduism, Islam, and Buddhism, but in this video we will borrow from the esoteric Christianity tradition, focusing only on the first 5 initiations, which in the Christian tradition are known as birth, baptism, transfiguration, crucifixion, and resurrection. Of these 5 initiations, the first initiation or enlightenment experience is usually the most dramatic, but ironically, it is not nearly as significant as the other initiation experiences. The key to understanding why this is so is hidden in the name given to this first initiation, birth. In short, the birth initiation represents being born into the 5th kingdom of conscious souls, because at this point our consciousness has evolved into a factual and not just symbolic or aspirational understanding that this spiritual kingdom is real. As any parent knows, the birth of a child into the world is a momentous event. It's also a time fraught with difficulty both for the parent and the infant. Everything seems new, with a lot of emotions involved: joy, frustration, anticipation, and confusion, to name a few. Welcoming the infant into the world is also a time-consuming process, and for the most part, the entire world seems to revolve around trying to meet the infant's needs and demands. To help us understand what is meant by the lure of the physical world is broken, we need to realize that most human beings who are in what is known as the fourth kingdom are locked into what is called the world of the five senses. Every day they get up and focus mainly on getting money, having sex, and gaining power to pursue pleasures dictated to them by their five senses: what they see, taste, touch, smell, and hear, and spend their lives pursuing their mostly materialistic desires. Even if they follow a particular faith tradition, the major goal of their faith is to help them be good, primarily so they can fulfill their desires in this life or even in an afterlife. For the individual now born into the fifth kingdom of conscious souls, these typical human motivations no longer satisfy. There is much more to life, and in many ways those in the fifth kingdom of conscious souls feel that they are in the world and not of it. Still, as infants, they struggle, often at first, feeling lost as they no longer fit into the human world, the fourth kingdom, and are not sure how to live in the spiritual realm, the fifth kingdom. Now, there are many trials and difficulties those going through the first initiation or expansion of consciousness face, which at some point may be covered in a video dedicated to that process. For now, we will shift briefly to explaining the second initiation or enlightenment experience that I kiddingly refer to as the getting humbled initiation. Here, the infant slowly expands his or her spiritual consciousness, growing into spiritual maturity. A major goal, then, for the second degree initiate is learning to decentralize him or herself so that even though he or she is growing in spiritual stature, there is less and less emphasis on how spiritual one is. Rather, learning to love and serve with humility becomes more important. We also see increased mastery in handling the emotions so that emotional equanimity tends to characterize the person's life. Thus, the baptism, which symbolizes the purification of emotional reactions, prejudices, and desires, is undergone. As for the third initiation or enlightenment experience, for now briefly we might say that the third initiation or expansion of consciousness represents mastery of the mind and thoughts as they are transfigured spiritually. There is also a more conscious understanding and acceptance of one's dharma or spiritual purpose for helping to uplift and serve in the world. The fourth initiation, we might say, sees the individual becoming entirely soul-infused, living according to soul values, and more actively aware of both inner and outer realms of existence. The individual is also making what is known as the crucifixion or great sacrifice, where the entire life is dedicated to living and serving spiritually. By the fifth initiation, that person has achieved mastery of what Bailey calls the personality vehicle that is made up of mind, emotions, and the etheric physical body. Every aspect of the life is now in accord with spiritual principles and values, and the individual is also becoming more cosmically conscious. That is an extremely brief summary of the first 5 initiations, enlightenment experiences, or expansions of consciousness. Now we're going to look briefly at the 3 stages that are involved in every initiation. They are 1. Preparation. Here we undergo the necessary spiritual practices that will help us prepare for the initiation, enlightenment experience, or expansion of consciousness to come. 2. The initiation itself. This stage involves the processes that happen when the initiation, enlightenment experience, or expansion of consciousness occurs. The mold is set, so to speak, at this point. It's as if we were clay, and the clay has finally been formed into the specific pattern, and it's formed that way through our own self-initiated efforts, so that it can be put into the kiln and it can be fired, so to speak, so that the shape holds now in a specific way. And integration. Here we are concerned with the so what aspect of initiation, meaning of what use is this expansion of consciousness, especially regarding how we can be of service to others and demonstrate the usefulness of this expansion of consciousness to help benefit the world and those around us. Stage 1, preparation. So let's look at the first initiation, expansion of consciousness, or enlightenment experience as an example of what these 3 stages of any initiation process might look like. In the book Initiation Human and Solar by Alice Bailey, we are given 14 rules that the probationer or person undergoing the first initiation must follow. The first few rules, rules 1 through 7, are designed to help the individual make sure that his or her bodies, the lesser lives or lunar vehicles as they were referred to in these rules of the mind, emotions, and physical body, are purified enough to resonate with and handle that expansion. Otherwise, if they're not, the clay pot will go into the kiln or the fire of the rod of initiation, applying that fire, and cracks might happen or that pot might break. So that's why it's so important to follow these purification practices. Purifications explained by these 7 rules include examining our motives for why we're on the spiritual path. Is it to truly serve, or is it because of the goodies we hope to receive by being known as a spiritual somebody? Learning to at least start the process of cultivating humility. That process will be much more intensified in the second initiation. Starting the training of observing our thoughts and speech so that they can be harmless, discerning truth from untruth, and constructive. And also so that these thoughts are used mainly to correct ourselves and become more spiritual rather than correcting others. The rules also emphasize how we need to at least begin the training of making sure our emotions are becoming more calm and tranquil. Now, until we complete the second initiation, they won't be totally calm, but we are at least starting the process of observing our emotional triggers, to use a modern phrase, and trying to be accountable for diffusing these triggers so that they no longer act like hidden landmines inside of us, ready to go off onto others. Also, the first initiation rules emphasize the need to purify our vital physical bodies, mainly through right diet and rhythmic, ordered living. The emphasis on the physical body is similar to what happens when a baby is born into the human kingdom, and the focus is heavy on coordinating and learning to master the physical body. Only now, in the 5th kingdom of conscious souls, we are learning to spiritualize our physical bodies so that they can house spiritual energies more. Stage 2, initiation. Once enough preparation work has been done for any initiation we are going through, the rod of initiation can be used to expand the consciousness and set the mold, allowing the person to take initiation. Again, using the first initiation as an example, we learned that a main goal of this initiation is to transfer the energies of the sacral center or chakra, called organs of generation in the Initiation in Human Solar text, up into the throat chakra. What does this transfer mean? As illustrated by Rule 8 in the book Initiation Human and Solar, briefly it means that we are no longer focused on our own personal need for pleasure. And we're no longer dropping the creative fires of the throat chakra down into the sacral center, where what we create stimulates the sex urge or other things that reflect the desires of the selfish personality. Instead, those creative fires are used to help bring more of the true, good, and beautiful into the world, so that the soul values that harmonize, inspire, and bring people together are seen. Stage 3. Integration. The point of the initiation is to enhance our capacity to serve. During the preparation phase of the first initiation, it is common for us to go through spiritual practices more in a solitary manner. But after the rod of initiation has set the mold, the focus shifts. When it comes to the first initiation, just as the infant is kicked out of the crib and forced to grow up, the person taking the first initiation is likewise kicked out of solitary places of retreat and told to join with others who are also on the spiritual path, so that he or she can start giving whatever the spiritual gifts are to the world. That means having the humility to understand that we cannot uplift the world and help it become soul-infused alone. That's why as we go from the first to the second initiation and go through the second initiation, I call that second initiation the initiation of getting humbled. What we realize is others are needed to help in the work. Choosing those we work with must be done with care, and especially Rule 9 gives guidelines for this. And it's very typical for those at the first initiation to gather groups around them, and then because they haven't chosen that group with care, there tends to be infighting, or it breaks apart, or all kinds of difficulties exist. That is much more a problem with the first initiation than with somebody who has finished the second initiation, because at that point, that group is chosen with a great deal of care. The emphasis is not so much on getting a number of followers or people around you as it is getting a few select, really good, high quality people together who can really serve. Focusing as we are mainly on the first initiation, those in the integration phase of this initiation are just learning to take more responsibility for those attracted to them. In the human or fourth kingdom, we don't feel this responsibility much. Instead, we're happy to gather people around us so long as they can help us get our desires for sex, money, and power met. At the first initiation, we are more aware of the impact we are having on others. That is why we are taking more responsibility for the right use of speech, the words we sound, and the power of words to create. We are also starting to engage the heart more as we work with others, though the true development of the heart center does not happen until the second initiation is completed. But if we maintain and even increase our soul connection with others, we and the group we are connected to will slowly become more and more effective and bringing soul-like qualities into the world. Final comments. The idea of becoming enlightened or taking an initiation is something many people rush headlong into with a sense of enthusiasm led primarily, if they could only see it, by a selfish motivation to become some enlightened being that hopefully others will recognize and follow. This desire is something that already with Rule 1 in the rules of initiation human and solar for the first initiation must be eliminated. Initiation is something that happens only because we have taken the initiative to purify ourselves enough that we are fit to be of service in the world. Though there may be phenomena associated with the actual process of initiation, with people experiencing sounds, lights, other realms, sensations of bliss, and the Kundalini fire rising, such phenomena often does not occur. In fact, an intense experience of phenomena often means not enough purification work was done, see rules 1 through 7, making the initiation or awakening experience of this first initiation much more dramatic than it needed to be. Hence the importance of following these rules to ensure the process of initiation goes more smoothly. Even then, taking initiation is not the point. Initiation is just a milestone, like graduating from high school or college. Yes, it is. It's an accomplishment. But all this training is for one end only, to serve others. Those who recognize the unity of all life, who are also becoming more adept at being of service in the world, especially in cooperation with others, are those who are at minimum going through the integration stage of, in this case, the first initiation. But even then, as we shall see, there are challenges ahead, which is why this is only the first initiation or enlightenment experience of many more to come, and why we have at least 8 more initiations that we will go through in our journey through this earth. Enjoy this video, support this work, help us write more books, do more videos. When you do, you get copies of charts, books, and an inside look into our process on what's next. You can do that by becoming a patron at patreon.com/soul2spirit, or visit our website, soul2spirit.com. Enjoy this YouTube channel, subscribe, like, comment, and share. As always, I give credit where it's due. This video was created and narrated by myself, Dr. Lisa Love. The background music you're hearing is Pure of Heart Music by Christopher Lloyd Wright, licensed for use from enlightenedaudio.com. Photos were purchased from 123rf.com. Videos were purchased from storyblocks.com. Thanks for watching.